Good evening, everyone. It says that Jessica Helen Glossop and Alicia Comastri are watching you. So there's the link if you'd like to come and have a conversation with us. You don't have to put your camera on if you don't want. But the idea behind this is that the Be Inspired group is obviously a place where we inspire each other with memes that we post, and sometimes we type little messages in there. And Lynn Harrison Jacobs is watching. Hi there, Lynn. So I'd love you to be able to come and join me. Sina Tuazon Ong is watching. So if you look, Sina, below this video, there is a link. It's a Zoom link. And if you click on that, you will be in this meeting with me and you will have a choice. You don't necessarily have to turn your camera on, but it would be lovely just to have another voice to listen to on my headphone to make sure that I am I'm here able to listen to people as well as to talk to people. Oh yes, Jeanette, admit. I don't know if I can hear you, Jeanette. Can you speak, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. So where are you, Jeanette? Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
I am in Tennessee, but I'm traveling in our truck.
Oh, so where are you going to or from? Are you going to Tennessee or from Tennessee?
I am actually going to an estate sale that I needed to, that I bid on and need to pick this stuff up.
All right. So is it like 3 o'clock in the afternoon with you?
Yes, it is. 3:15.
3:15. So this is the first time I've actually successfully achieved this broadcast on Be Inspired. I've talked about it in the group for a while. So have you been in the group for a while, Jeanette? Have you seen lots of posts and been inspired?
Yes, I've read your posts. I've been on your posts for well over a year. Wow. I don't know if that's a long time, but I've never attended a Zoom meeting. I think these meetings through their venues, including a counselor that I see online. Yeah. So they're really successful. I enjoy them.
Well, I've watched a few.
And you can reach so many people.
Yeah, indeed. And then, of course, it's always available later as a playback. You don't have to be there live. You can see it later. But yeah, it's something, I don't know if you know the Be Inspired story. Maybe that's a good point to start with this, that back in 2008, there was a banking crash, a worldwide banking crash, and social media was filled with very negative comments, and indeed we did have not recession, what did they call it? Like an economic problem for all of us, and I thought I'd just come in to social media and give a bit of a balance, and I started sharing poetry, Daffodils by Wordsworth and If by Rudyard Kipling, and lots of people were liking them, and I was asking, can I tag you in my next post? And then it became the Inspirational Writings group. And I had 3 of those with 50 people in each. And then I brought them all together in 2011, I think it was, as Be Inspired. So it's been around over a decade now. And there's 15,500 people. There's not many interactions going on. I thought, well, if we do a Zoom live into the group, then we can probably get to know each other a bit better. So and be of some kind of a community that can support each other with more inspirational conversations face to face. And right now I'm looking at you on my phone. And my phone is it's like the broadcast itself, it's a little bit behind real time. I think it's something like 5 or 10 seconds. So I'm going to shut up talking and have you got some inspiration, Jeanette, that you could share with us? Anything off the top of your head? An inspiring event that's taken place in your life recently?
No, not really. I don't know. It's always in the making, but no.
There's nothing that comes to mind that, or even not recently, maybe further back in time, something really inspirational that happened to you?
Constantly. I mean, constantly the universe chooses to bring people into my life that have, through difficult times, have helped me see things a little differently. For complete strangers and friends, I would have never made it through.
we have in our lives, we have down times and up times, and people don't appreciate the down times. But the reason why we have the down times is so that we can feel the exhilaration of the up times. And if you're having a really bad time, anybody watching, don't worry, a good time's coming. And if you're having a good time right now, don't get too happy, because you know that's the life. That's life. It just goes up and down all the way. And staying inspired is a choice. It's something that you decide to do, even in those dark days. If you can believe, with faith always comes to the rescue. If you can believe that there's a good time coming, a very simple way of looking at life, that there's good times and bad times, and we love the good times. But if we didn't have bad times, we wouldn't have the contrast of knowing how good the good times are. Oh, is Jeanette back now?
Yes, I am.
Because you keep going in and out of signal, which is probably because you're going between different masts.
Going through
Broadcasting.
mountains. Unfortunately, maybe this is not the time I should have joined in. One of the thoughts that I did have prior to is that for me, what has saved me the most is gratitude. You know, I try to journal gratitude and the things that I am grateful for, and I can always find plenty, even if it's, you know, just simply the beauty of the place I live in.
Yeah.
You know, the people who are in my life. And gratitude is so powerful. So
if you it's like we've all got a magnifying glass. You know, we can put our attention on whatever we want to put our attention on. There's no rules. And if you want to look at really bad things that are happening in the world, there's always plenty of bad things happening in the world. But if you want to focus on the beauty of nature, or the love of family, and the kindness of friends, there's always things, you know, you can only, I think these psychologists say you can only hold 6 consecutive thoughts, and if you're putting all 6 on something that's troubling you, then you end up depressed. And really the thing is to use the focus of your thoughts and your imagination to be aware of, as you say, you know, the beauty of the locality, the love of family, and the kindness of friends. If you focus in on that, it's not very long before you're counting your blessings. Some wise crack, he says, I stayed up all night counting my blessings and didn't get any sleep. there's there's that many. If you want to look, you know, whatever you look for, you'll find.
Yes.
Seek and you will find.
You shall find. Yes.
Yeah. So if you look for if you look for sadness, there's plenty of it around, and I'm not suggesting for a moment that we should ignore. I don't think the media will let us ignore the bad things that's happening in the world. I just came along with the idea 14 years ago now, to try and be a balance to that, to try and help people concentrate on the good things that are in the world.
Yes, hope carries us through a lot.
We had a whole presidential 8 years of hope, didn't we? Barack Obama. I remember hearing that speech right at the very beginning of the campaign. I've followed the American election for many times now, but he came out with his speech, and the day after I went online and I found a transcript of it, and I think that's one of my inspiring blog posts from a long time ago now. I think that was that 2008? I think it was. And he talked about hope, and I felt goosebumps on my goosebumps.
Nice. Yeah.
And I know that politicians aren't really, or not in recent years, politicians haven't been, certainly in our country, been the best source of inspiration. But that particular speech really touched me. And I love anything I love it if it's actually on the media, you know, because the media is so full of doom and gloom. When it actually broadcasts something that is the inauguration address of Joe Biden, there was a young African girl. She had this amazing prose poem that she shared, and
I heard it.
Yeah, it reminded me of the Barack Obama speech. And obviously growing up, my dad had a friend who had a lot of long players of long playing albums, 33 RPM vinyls that were of people like Martin Luther King and JFK and these speeches. And as a really young lad, must have been about 8 or 9, I couldn't wait to go to his house to hear another one. So inspiration has been part of my life from the very beginning. And way back at the age of 16, I got a note to preach within the Methodist Church. So from then on, that was part of my life, going and sharing some inspirational thoughts from the Bible. I went to Bible school back in 1979-80 with the intention of going for the Methodist ministry, and so inspiration has been at the center point of my life from the beginning. It's not something that I've suddenly decided to do because of the banking crash in 2008. And things that touch me, I think, well, you know, that's probably the best thing that I have to offer to other people. And I've written, you've probably seen some of them, Jeanette, written quite a lot of inspirational poetry and inspirational writings. I have a website which has a blog, apsmithonline.com. I think there's something like 1,000 entries on there now. Of original material, things that I've written rather than that I've borrowed from Obama or from Joe Biden's inauguration or something like that, or William Wordsworth or Rudyard Kipling. It's my own stuff, and it is something that I'd like my presence to be felt in this world through what I have to say about inspiration.
It's so needed.
So I've got Sarah Thompson saying, this is a perfect message, but I have to leave. Well, the good thing about it, Sarah, or Sarah, should I say, it's S-A-R-A, Sarah, that you can watch it on playback. So it's not gone at the end of the broadcast. It's still going to be there for us to catch up on at a later point. And I have no script. I've got no... I did actually write a few headings down. I don't know if you're aware, Jeanette, of a guy called Patanjali.
No, I'm not.
Patanjali is someone who wrote 2,300 years ago, and he talks about inspiration and what inspiration does for us if we embrace it. And so I did make just a note of what he said, and I thought maybe I could comment one line at a time on it, but I'll read the whole thing first. You know, when we're inspired, all our thoughts break their bonds, our mind transcends limitations, our consciousness expands in every direction. You find yourself in a new, great and wonderful world. Dormant forces, faculties and talents become alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. That's 2,300-year-old statement from Patanjali. And I did talk about briefly about getting goosebumps on your goosebumps. And there is a kind of a physical, like almost like a shiver thing that goes through my body when something really touches me. I don't know if you've had that experience yourself, Jeanette.
But I really am going to have to go. I'm here at this estate sale, and everything has to be picked up. I wrote, I'm hoping to reconnect with you.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that you offer more of these Zoom meetings in the future. Are you planning to?
Yeah, my intention is to have one each Wednesday evening. I'm putting my commitment on the line. This is a regular thing, and it is. If you see the Be Inspired group, the banner at the top tells you that there's going to be one of these each Wednesday evening. At the moment, I'm obviously trying to get people involved in this conversation, and therefore I'm sharing the Zoom link in the group. But eventually, I'd like to have like a Be Inspired conversation group, so that we have a separate, not a separate place for the broadcast, but an extra place where people can gather in Facebook to have a more meaningful, ongoing conversation, like you'd have a WhatsApp group for your friends, that kind of, so that it's actually an ongoing thing. It's not just on a Wednesday. For those people, it's going to be 24/7. You know, obviously I sleep, but there's people awake other parts of the world, so it would be a conversation between people who have been on these live broadcasts. And but that's, you know, the aim, you know, where it's going. At the moment, it's just on a Wednesday night. I'll be here London time, 8 o'clock, for an hour and a half, something like that, and then we'll build things from there. But thank you so much, Jeanette, for being here on this very first call. I know you were in conversation with me on Messenger, is it 3 weeks ago, maybe even longer back than that, saying that's something that interests me. So you got in on the first one, even though you were on the move.
And I've got several friends that would probably be interested in joining too.
Lovely, that's great.
So I'll be sending them the information.
Yeah, so I'll put the link for next week's broadcast in the group, probably with that banner headline, and I'll put it to the top of the group, so it should be easy to find. And then by all means, as many people who want to join. I know that Zoom has it got a limit of 100 people. At that point you'd have to mute people in between, and you have to put your hand up to speak like in class.
Yes, yes, I belong
Because
to a
otherwise,
couple of those,
yeah,
but it works.
yeah, it works. The technology's
So
there and we've done it. So it's amazing. Thank you very much, Jeanette, for being
thank you.
with me. And I'll look forward to speaking with you next week.
Excellent. Okay. You be blessed.
All right,
Bye-bye.
you too. Bye for now. Bless you. So that was Jeanette. Teresa Falk, very good talk. We will listen to you if people who do not like to go live but love to listen. Storytelling will be very powerful. Yes, Teresa. Do you say Therese or do you say Teresa? That's what I was just saying. Yeah, that people don't necessarily want to come live on camera. You don't have to come on. You can switch your camera off, and you can decide to just speak and not be seen. That's okay too. I think more and more people are getting used to the Zoom technology and are willing to come on and say hello. This is the first of many inspirational conversations on a Wednesday night. I'm going to go back to the words of Patanjali that I was referring to in my conversation with Jeanette. So this is how good inspiration is. People, it's Henry David Thoreau who said, people live lives of quiet desperation. And it's because of the focus, as I was talking to Jeanette, we're talking about the focus of your mind. You know, what do you think about most of the time? And of course, there are situations in life that demand your attention. They're right up in your face, close and personal. Tragedy can strike at any time. And there are definitely things in the media every single day that could depress you, make you feel sad, and give you a really bad time if you just focused on that. But there's a lot of good in the world, and if your thoughts are the main measure by which you become inspired, you've got to focus your attention on things which will be of blessing to you, rather than things that are going to take you down and make you feel sad. And that isn't to ignore the desperately sad and difficult things that come into our lives. It's not, I'm not for, my granddad once said that you've joined the happy clappies. When I left the Methodist church, I was talking to Jeanette about being a Methodist lay preacher at the very beginning of my sort of late teens, early 20s. When I left the Methodist church, my grandfather, he said, "You've gone and joined the happy clappies." And there is a sense in which people might see what I'm doing as being very unrealistic. I'm asking people to focus on the things which inspire us. Jeanette was talking about gratitude, and that would be a good source of inspiration, to think about what you're grateful for. Not the things that make you feel sad, but what's the number? I can see that there's a couple of people watching now. What is the number one thing? If you could type it into the chat, what is the number one thing that you're grateful for today? that might be a great beginning for a conversation about inspiration. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to go back to Patanjali, 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 who 2,300 years ago wrote this amazing statement about what inspiration does. And he said, when you're inspired by some great purpose, all your thoughts break their bonds. It's like your mind is capable of thinking about much more hugely beneficial things than the things that you're thinking about if you're being sad and depressed. There is a just checked out your post. This is Sandan. So yeah, Sandan doesn't think this is the right kind of format, but depends where you're at. I believe that Sandan could bring such, maybe just for 10 minutes, you know, she could come in for 10 minutes and she could bring you such great inspiration. She's a very inspirational person. That's why I invited her. But it's okay. There's no compulsion on anybody to join in, and those who are supposed to be here will be here in our conversation. So when we're talking about inspiration, the thoughts that we have create a feeling, a feeling of well-being, and whatever you're focusing your attention on is going to either take you higher up or lower down. So you've got to make a choice. I said this to Jeanette, every day we all have to make a choice of whether we're going to be happy or sad. And sometimes there's so much sadness overwhelming us that I had both my parents die within 3 months of each other. And some might say that I never really got over it. I don't think you can. I don't think you can lose your parents without actually, Amen. I'm going to have to put my glasses on to see this. Amen Abunabut is watching. Hi there, Amen. I'm waving back. Thank you so much for joining me on this broadcast. And yeah, so when my parents died within 3 months of each other, we expected my dad to pass away. He was 10 years older than my mum. He was in a terminal illness for about 2 years, but it was a real big shock when mum had a heart attack and died within 3 months of that. And no amount of oh, come on, hurry yourself along, G up, make yourself feel happy again, quickly, come on now, you know it makes sense. None of that is going to work at a time like that. But there are days where it could go either way. You could either feel really inspired or you could be almost bordering on depression, and it does depend on, it's like a little trick, what you think about. So if you think about inspiring things, you will feel inspired, and that's really what I'm wanting for the group, which has been around for 10 years now. My intention is that people will read the words in the group and they will feel inspired. And other people have been posting there, some of them for a very long time. There are others that sat in the background, and I can see from the statistics that Facebook give me that even though there's 15,500 people in the group, it's about 10% of the people in the group that are active, and that's a massive number of people. 1,500 individually, separate occasions. A different person in the last month has come to have a nosy. You know, they might not comment, they might might not even like, give a thumbs up, or ever contribute to the group. They might never actually post in the group at all, and yet they're watching because they love to be inspired. So the group itself is here to give you the opportunity to find something each day that will inspire you, that will make you feel good about life. Because, like I've said to Jeanette Canham, who was speaking with me live in this broadcast, please come and join me. Anybody who wants to have a live conversation with me, just click on the link. And people get used to this as an idea. Every Wednesday evening we're going to do this, we have a choice to make. I was saying to Jeanette, we have a choice. And sometimes if there is material put in front of us that in the group, for example, or elsewhere, because there's other places you can go to find inspiration each day, if there is some inspirational thought that you can have, that's part of taking you up the spiral, to higher consciousness, to help you feel good about your day, help you feel good about your life, help you feel good about the way you personally are going to interact with the world. And life needs, on those days when it could go either way, you need to have the opportunity to have something there to brighten your day. Inspiration to brighten your day. That's the name of the group. It's facebook.com/groups/inspiration to brighten your day. That's the focus, the intention behind the group. And it would be really lovely to, and we'll be doing it. We've already done it with Jeanette, to open up the group to a more literal conversation, a face-to-face conversation with Jeanette. She was driving, and she joined the broadcast. At least she was in the car. I don't know if she was driving. So all your thoughts break their bonds. So when you're inspired, Patanjali said 2,300 years ago, it's almost like you had this sort of blinkered view of the world, and all you could see was what was right in front of you, and sometimes it's not very lovely. But if you've got your vision opened up, then you can see all the other good things. There's good things and bad things happening all the time. You ask a person who went to a party, who was in this corner of the room where there was an argument and they were falling out, and they were saying how much they disliked each other. They would tell you a different story about the party than the one who was in the middle of the room having a great old bop, having a dance to their favorite music. You asked those two people what kind of party was it, and the person who was in the corner of the room with watching the two people arguing would say it was a terrible party. But the people who were in the middle of the room dancing, they just said, yeah, we really I'm going to say busted a groove. That's not one of the things I'd say, but I have heard other people say it, that we had a really great time at the party. And so my email address is 57, that's my year of birth, 57perception@gmail.com. Perception is everything. It's how you see the world that you are interacting with. You have a choice whether to interact with the negativity or not. And I go there. I go to the negative side of things as much as anyone else. So it's no judgment from me if you sometimes go to that dark place. Being bombarded by the media, they would have you believe that there's nothing but bad things happening. But Louis Armstrong, is it? I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I hear babies cry. I see them grow. They'll learn much more than you ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. So it is a choice whether we put our attention on those days that are could go either way. It's where you put your focus and your attention. And Patanjali said, when you're inspired by some great thought, some great purpose, all your thoughts break the bonds. And your mind transcends limitations. You stop telling yourself, oh, that could never happen. Oh, I'd never be able to do that. When you're inspired, you think, faith comes in and says, yes, you could do this. That there is a real possibility that my life can change. It can be better than this. That's when you're inspired, when faith has come. And faith is telling you to believe that you're capable of doing much more than you've ever done before. There is potential within you. You've not reached your potential. The day that the potential of a human life ends is when people go when they die. That's when you've lost potential. Till then, there's still time. There's still chance. The guy who invented KFC. Takeaway food, not probably the best kind of food to eat, very tasty. I like to have a KFC now and again. The guy who did that, a guy called Colonel Tom Sanders, he was broke. He had nothing. He had no money. He'd retired, and the pension check he was getting wasn't enough to live on. So he got in his car and he went to over 1,000 restaurants and said, I don't have much in this life, but what I do have is a great chicken recipe, fried chicken recipe. You will never have tasted fried chicken like mine. The coating, the batter, it's just amazing. And I'm willing to give you this particular recipe on an exchange of 10% of the increased profits that you get in your business by selling this. It's the earliest form of franchise that, apart from, what's the other one? Probably McDonald's. One of the earliest examples of offering a franchise. You can sell my stuff and you give me a little bit of what you make. And 1,000 people turned him down. 1,000 restaurants said, I've got a chicken recipe. I don't need yours, mate. And he just kept, he kept going. And this is it, that there is something about a determination that is very inspiring. And his face, Colonel Sanders, is a face that you see all over the world, not just in America where Sanders was, but this is something that he just decided that I don't care if 1,000 restaurant owners say, no, I don't think I want to use your chicken recipe. I've got one of my own. He kept going and kept going until, well, you know what the answer is that I'm going to give you, the outcome rather. The outcome is that there's KFC in every major Western city on the planet because he didn't give up. So and he was retired when he started the business. He was over 65 years of age. Abraham Lincoln is another older guy who'd been into politics for quite a while, and he'd always lost every single election that he ever got involved in. He came second, and if you come second, you don't get the job, but he never gave up. And at the age, I think he was 59 when he became president, and even though it had a very sad ending, did Abraham Lincoln's life, he is still talked about, not because of how he died, but how he lived and how he presided over that great office of state, of president. It took him, he had such tragedy in his life. There was many occasions where Abraham Lincoln could have quite easily said, not just because of the defeats at the polls, but also because of the tragedies of his own life, he may have just said, well, I'm good for nothing and I'll come to nothing. But we still talk about him 150 years on. We're still talking about this great man. So never give up. Never, ever, 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 ever give up. Just keep going, as I am doing. Now, there's nobody watching at the moment. I can see that there's no one watching, but I know that there will be people watching this back later. And I will be, I'll be highlighting certain snippets of what I've been saying here to introduce people to the idea of coming here and sharing Wednesday evening at 8 UK time, London time. And this is only the first one, so I don't care. I'm just going to keep going because I know that people do need inspiring. The day that we are in, this is the 2nd of March 2022, and there's dreadful things happening in Ukraine. I know there is a great need for people to be inspired. There's great sadness because of a pandemic that we've suffered from, COVID pandemic, and there's always been something to be upset about. But I'm, fear not, kind people. I'm here with a message of hope and of faith and of joy and of inspiration and of gratitude, as Jeanette was saying. We all need gratitude. If you watch this later, if you watch this on playback, and I've only asked for one thing to be put into the comments box, and that is for you to share one thing that you're grateful for today. Because as soon as you switch your mind on to thinking about, well, what am I grateful for? As soon as that question, you know, it's the questions that we ask ourselves that create the life that we have, the emotional life that we have. Depending on the questions that you ask, you can dig yourself into a deep depression, or you can go on the wings of love and of joy and of faith to a high place where you feel great. And it's all capable because of the human mind. So Patanjali said, all your thoughts break their bonds when you're inspired. Your mind transcends limitations. You stop telling yourself you can't do something, because there's nothing impossible. In fact, the word impossible actually says it. I'm possible. You know, we've seen all these little quotes before, but it's worth repeating. Patanjali says your consciousness expands in every direction. It's like, not only with the blinkers on, and now you've got 180 degrees vision, and you can turn your head and see probably 270 degrees, but the actual direction of these thoughts, this consciousness, this awareness, you suddenly see so much more than you've ever seen before, while you've just been focused in on with the blinkers on. And he says, Patanjali says, you find yourself in a new, great and wonderful land. Who doesn't want to be in a new, great and wonderful land? It's so obvious, you know. If you ask people, do you want to be in a life like Henry David Thoreau said, of quiet desperation, or would you like to find yourself in a new, great and wonderful land? I've given you a choice now. Which are you going to go for? Are you going to go for the wonderful land, or are you going to go for that quiet desperation? Which do you want? And I'm not saying that you feel like you've got a choice right now, because there is massive tragedy. And it's very difficult when you're in the midst of great tragedy to take your eyes away from what's just happened. When a loved one passes away, or as happened to me when both mum and dad pass away within 3 months of each other, there is an excuse some of the time, but not most of the time. Maybe it's 80-20, I don't know, the 80-20 rule, isn't there? But I would hazard a guess that at least 80% of the time, it's dependent on the questions that you ask. It's dependent on your choice of whether you want to be inspired or not. You can, at any moment, use the grey matter to choose to have a much more happier life than the one that you're having. Maybe 20% of the time it's not possible for you to do that, and that's okay. There's no judgment. There's ups and downs in life. If you didn't have the down times, you wouldn't know how good the up times are. But on that 80% of the time, you can choose to have a much better experience, emotional experience of life, if you want to. If you want to find yourself in a new, great and wonderful world, then inspiration can take you there. And then Patanjali goes on to say that dormant forces, faculties and talents become alive. There's stuff that's inside each one of us. Even Albert Einstein, the most brilliant mind that ever lived. I don't know that there's anybody else that comes into your thinking, maybe Stephen Hawking, absolutely brilliant mind. But Albert Einstein, he came up with the general theory of relativity. And I don't know if you've probably heard of E = mc squared, but there's a chalkboard, there's a picture, a photograph of Albert Einstein with a chalkboard, and on the chalkboard he's written out the formula, not E = mc squared, but the calculation of E = mc squared, and it goes on and on and on and on. It's all symbols and numbers, and anybody who knows quantum physics would be able to understand what languages that he's speaking. But right at the bottom, therefore E = mc squared, I've proved it. And yet there's still those 100 and some years later, 100 and a few later, certainly over 100 years now since he published the theory. I think it was 1918, 1919, he published his theory of relativity. There are still people to this day working on what Einstein had to say in his theory of relativity, the time-space continuum. And they haven't yet scientifically ruled out all the possibilities, yes and no, for it being correct. What he came up with, they're still working on it 100 years later. This is the brightest mind, I believe, that ever lived, Albert Einstein. And he said when he died, I want you to do something, a pretty gruesome thing to do. I want you to remove the brain from my body, and I want you to find out how much of my brain I've used to be Albert Einstein. Big shout out for Big Al, you know. He'd used 10% of his brain. The synaptic paths between, the bits that fire off to give you the ability to think, he'd only used 10% of them. The most brilliant mind that ever lives. What would human beings be like if we could use 20%, 30% of our synaptic paths that are available to us? How amazing could we be? So all your thoughts break the bonds, according to Patanjali. Dormant forces, faculties and talents become alive. What does it? Patanjali said 2,300 years ago, what makes it that way? It's inspiration. What made Albert Einstein the way he was? It was inspiration. The guy sat there in the classroom, he's 13, 14 years of age. He's looking out the window. They're playing rugby, American football. They're playing football. No, they're not. They're not playing soccer. They're playing football out there. We call it rugby league, rugby union. And it's very interesting, beautiful day, and they're all running up and down the rugby pitch, and the tutor in the room, he says, Einstein, eyes forward. Now, don't be off on some flight of fancy, just look forward, and listen to me, basically. And the guy, Einstein, even though he's a teenager, he's thinking to himself, I really already understand all of this. You're not telling me anything new. I'm bored, actually, with what this lecture is about. I've already understood this. But you told me to put my eyes forward, I'll put my eyes forward. And what did Einstein see? He saw the clock at the front of the classroom. And when he saw the clock there, he's like, how do I tell the time? How do I tell the time? And so it's the hand going around the clock. No, how is it possible for me to see what time it is? And the answer is light. If there wasn't any light, you wouldn't be able to see the clock. He said, I wonder what would happen. This is a 14, 15-year-old Einstein, just being playful, just being imaginative, inspiration. Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. He looks forward at the clock and thinks, if I could see that clock faster than the speed of light, now, if it's possible for me to see the clock ticking away the seconds faster than the speed of light, and he worked it out, I would see. And you're not going to see it your way, because I'm going like that. Time's going forward. It's going the opposite way, isn't it? on the video, but he would see the second hand go backwards if he could see faster than the speed of light. And that's where the equation started to formulate in Einstein's mind about what is the speed of light, and is it possible for anything to go faster than the speed of light? He's just having an inspiring old time. Another story about Einstein is a young man, probably late teens. He's gone for a walk in the woods, and he lays down, he's quite tired, lays down with his back against the tree. And being the imaginative soul that he is, he decided, I know what I'll do. I'll go for a ride on a sunbeam. Yeah, he wanted to go for a ride on a sunbeam. And in his imagination, he did. And he went in a straight line from where he was. You'll never guess where he got back, where he got to. He got back to the exact place that he started from. And he believed from that moment that time-space is curved. Just being imaginative, just having a flight of fancy. This is what Patanjali said, that all your thoughts break the bonds, and dormant forces and faculties and talents become alive. If you're in a rut, do you know what the rut is? A rut is a grave with the ends kicked out. If you're already dead but you haven't lied down, the way to get out of that trench, that rut, is to be inspired. And I'm probably preaching to the converted here, because you're watching this, those of you who are watching it live, and those of you who are watching it on playback, you're watching this in a group called Be Inspired. So I know I'm preaching to the choir, but Patanjali went on to say, when you are inspired, you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. Kenny Marshall is watching. Hi there, Kenny. Thank you so much for tuning in. I got a bit carried away there. I do that with when I get inspired, all my thoughts break the bonds. Oh no, that's Patanjali said that. Yeah, you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. If you want to up the ante in your life, if you want your life to take on a deeper purpose, a better meaning than it has right now, if you want it to count for something, if you want to be someone that leaves. My grandfather, I never met him, he died in 1938. He told my dad, he said, leave the world a better place than you found it. And my dad shared that with me. But at his funeral, at my dad's funeral, a family member came to me who didn't know what my granddad had said to my dad. She said, your dad has left the world a better place than when he got here. No, there are people like that who, when their lights go out, recently Desmond Tutu, now we've got Geraldine Evans is watching. So Geraldine and Kenny, if you look in the conversation that is attached to this this broadcast, you will see that there is a Zoom link. And not everybody wants to do this, but if you want to click on that link, we've already had Jeanette Canham from the East Coast of America join us live on this conversation in the Zoom room. Then by all means, I'd love you to just click that that link and come and join me and have an inspirational conversation. I'm quite capable, as you've probably seen, of talking about my favorite subject of inspiration without having someone to talk to. But the whole idea of this broadcast is to do what I did with Jeanette Canham earlier on this evening, about an hour ago now, when we were having a conversation about inspiration. And this is going to happen every Wednesday evening. We're going to join together and become a community of people who don't just share things in the Be Inspired group, but we also talk to each other and we have friendships with each other. There's a community spirit. We know about each other and we're there as a support group, you know, because there are down times and you've got to weep with those who weep. It's not just about being overly exuberant. Being inspired isn't just about that. It's about being real. It's about saying, yeah, there are 20% of the times of our lives where things can be up to 20%. I'm not making that a hard and fast rule here. There are 20% of the times that we have where we are quite legitimate in feeling down and sad, and but that means, if that was true, that there are 80% of the time where you can choose whether to be my friend Richard Wilkins in Northampton with the broadband consciousness work that he does, BC. He many years ago now, he talked about, for the first time, I think he's probably said it many times since, that if you won the lottery, somebody rings you up from Lottery HQ and you say, hello, who's that? Oh, it's so-and-so from Lottery HQ. Oh yeah, yeah. Why are you ringing me? Oh, well, you just won the big one, you know, the top prize. Are you sure you got the right person? Is this a wind-up? Is some, you know, friend of mine trying to play an April Fool's early on me? And you say, no, it's genuine. You've won the top prize, 100 million, you know. And you go, when it finally sank in that it was true, he said, then you'd go exuberant. You'd go, yeah, I won the big prize, like that. You'd go absolutely mental. your whole life is going to be changed now, certainly from a materialistic point of view. All the holidays and all the houses and all the treats for the grandkids and everything, it's all possible now. But he said, if I was to give you a choice between winning the lottery, the big prize, or being not dead, which would you rather have? And it's a bit of a weird question to think about at first. Well, if I was not dead, then that's how I am now, isn't it? I'm not dead now. So I've got a choice between being not dead or having won the lottery. But so that means that if I've won the lottery, I'm dead. Which would I choose? Would I choose to win the lottery, or would I choose to be not dead? And he said, you might think about it for a little while, but then you'd say, no, I'd rather be not dead. So he said, how come when you are, when you were told that you really won the lottery, you went absolutely berserk, then you don't feel wonderful every day, because even though you haven't won the lottery, you're not dead. And you said you'd choose, if you had to choose, you'd choose being not dead than winning the lottery. Being alive, according to Richard, and I agree with him, being alive is a better prize than winning the lottery. I'm getting goosebumps saying that to you. It is a very amazing thing that that you can do with the grey matter. You can turn the thing on a coin. You know, is it heads or is it tails? Is it good or is it bad? Henry Ford said, if you think you can, or if you think you can't, either way, you're right. I had a little disc and it said, if you think you can, if you think you can't, and then you turned it over, either way, you're right. It's your choice. Do you want to be a winner? Choose to be a winner. If you want to feel better than having won the big prize on the lottery, just remember Richard Wilkins and being not dead. You know, you're not dead. Everything's possible while you're alive. And Patanjali says that when you're inspired, you discover yourself to be you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. It is something that inspiration does. It allows you to step outside of the humdrum and the TikTok and makes you see that there is an awful lot more to this life than what goes on in humdrum and TikTok. So I'm going to read that quotation again from Patanjali. We're coming to the end of our broadcast here, and I think we've got quite a lot of snippets that I can show what this is going to be like. Every Wednesday, 8 o'clock London time. You're very welcome. I'm going to put the link into the group each week, and you are very welcome to join in with the proceedings as Jeanette did. It is very apt that Jeanette is the first person to have this inspirational conversation with me, because as soon as I announced that this is something that I wanted to do, hadn't got the technology in place to do this, she was the first person to say she wanted to be involved. So I'm going to read Patanjali's, you know, when you're inspired, when you're filled with some great purpose, all your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction. You find yourself in a new, great and wonderful world. Dormant forces, faculties and talents become alive. You discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. Isn't that a good enough reason? From 2,300 years ago from Patanjali, isn't that a good enough reason to be inspired? Can you not feel it? being inspired is ace. It's the best thing on the planet. Why? Because it releases everything that you're capable of in that moment of inspiration, in that moment of faith, in that moment of expectation. They say you don't get what you want, you get what you expect. But when you're expecting good things come. Maybe not immediately, but good things do come. And being inspired is one of the best things that I can share with you. That's why I called my group Be Inspired. And even though I couldn't have facebook.com/groups/be inspired, I got inspiration to brighten your day. That's what I want to do. I want to be the one, and have done through Facebook with the Be Inspired group for at least 10 years now. I've been the one who constantly comes back time and time again with inspirational thoughts, inspirational poetry, inspirational, if you go to my blog, apsmithonline.com, there's about 1,000 inspirational writings there now, to inspire you, to just make you think about something today that will set your life off today. If you read it first thing in the morning, it'll take you off in a direction that maybe you wouldn't have gone if you hadn't seen that inspired writing. And I'm not just talking about my own inspirational writing. There's lots of inspirational writings out there. This group, Be Inspired, began with me sharing Rudyard Kipling's poem, If, and William Wordsworth Daffodil's poem. There's just a feeling that you get from being inspired that, as far as I can see, is the best possible feeling to have on this planet. And so thank you everyone who's watched even for a brief moment. Thank you for those of you who've commented. Thank you for those of you who have watched this on playback. I hope to bring you much more inspiration every Wednesday evening, London time, 8 p.m. From now on, now that I've got the technology worked out and how we're going to do this going forward. And I look forward to having many inspirational conversations with the people in this group. Let's bring the group together in a conversation that actually makes a difference in each of our lives. Thank you for being there for me. Those of you who've supported me for over a decade, it means the world to me that you want to tune in to what I have to say. But my whole life, as I see it, and talking to Jeanette earlier, has been based around being inspired from a very young age, from listening to Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech on my dad's friend's 33 RPM vinyl record album. I have a dream that one day my children will be judged by the content of their character and not the colour of their skin. So before I go, I want to say a few words of prayer for Ukraine at this time. So let's pray. Father God, I know that there are inspirational beings and people who have very low vibrations on this planet. And I pray for peace and for security for the people of Ukraine and for the people of Russia too, because they are being affected. In fact, the whole world is being affected by what's happening in Ukraine. May peace reign. May the tanks and the bombs and the guns withdraw. May sense be seen. May kindness be shown. May love be known. Amen. Thank you for joining us.